Hi, my name is John Bay. I am the President and CEO of Standard Uranium, and today Neil McCallum, our VP of Exploration, and myself are going to tell you about Standard Uranium. So I hope you're looking at our presentation right now. You can see that Standard Uranium, we find the fuel to power a clean energy future. I'm going to walk you through the slide deck, and first slide is our legal disclaimer, so please come back and look at that on your own time. And we're basically going to be making some forward-looking statements today. If you may have heard the uranium space right now, the macro story is starting to really pick up. There's lots of factors for that. Number one, today is the inauguration in the U.S., and for the first time in a long time, we have both support from both the Democrats and the both parties, actually, some bilateral support on uranium going forward. And the U.S. government has just put aside $150 million to go towards, a strategic reserve to buy domestically, which is fantastic. We have, the COVID-19 has also played a big impact, shutting down all uranium production in Canada right now. So Cameco has put their minds on suspension until they can get their workers back to site. And that's happening globally as well as other mines coming offline. We're also seeing, the spot price is still sitting between $29 and $30. It hasn't even started to move yet. And we are seeing a lot of the equity market starting to pick up in the uranium space. So watch for 2021 to be a monumental year in uranium. One thing I also would like to add is that ESG. We're now starting to see uranium companies be considered as ESG companies. So investments and hedge funds and specific uranium funds are coming involved in investing in uranium. So watch for large volume changes in some of the equity companies. To give you our vision, you can see this slide. It shows you the map of Canada, Saskatchewan, and the Athabasca Basin. You can see our three main projects with our flagship Davidson River project. We're going to be talking about that today as we are about to begin our phase 2 drill program in a few weeks. At Standard Uranium, we find the fuel to power a clean energy future. We use best practices, and we've built a team that has made discoveries in this region previously. So here's a bit of our snapshot about our company. You can see the Athabasca Basin there, and if you're not aware, the Athabasca Basin is the best place in the entire world to find high-grade uranium deposits. In 2020, this past year, we had four main objectives. The first one was to complete our public listing, and we did that in May 4th, going public. Followed up on that, we did a capital raise, raising $4.5 million. On the back of that, we went right into our drill program, and we did phase 1 drilling out our Davidson River project, drilling 5,500 meters, and we did that about 13 drill holes in very challenging COVID times, and we did that on time and on budget. On the back of that successful drill program, we went ahead and raised further capital in October, raising another $3.4 million. So we ended up 2020 in excellent shape with $4.5 million in the bank, our Davidson River project fully permitted, and we're all set to begin our drill program, which is going to happen in a few weeks. A short-term catalyst for our company is having success on the back of our winter drill program to follow it up with a further drill program this summer. We're also going to go up to our Sundog project in the north. We're going to be doing some ground gravity, some further exploration work, and work on permitting that for drilling in 2022. And our Eastern Basin projects, the Ascent, Canary, and Atlantic, we're going to be moving those forward with drilling permits and be ready to drill those in 2022 as well. If you look at this slide, it shows you the Lassonde curve. This sort of shows you the different cycles in the mining space. And what I want to take careful attention to is that our logo down there. We are pre-discovery, which means we are just at the very start of the speculation phase, which is a fantastic time to invest in a company when their share price doesn't have the valuation of making a discovery. So we believe this is where we are right now as we begin our second drill program on our Davidson River, an excellent time to invest with us at Standard Uranium. I'm going to take you through our board of directors and our management team, and I want you to pay close attention to who these people are and why we've added them to our team. We have basically rebuilt an exploration program, an exploration team that is based on previous experience making discoveries in this region. And let me walk you through who our team are and why that makes a lot of sense. So first of all, I'm the CEO, president, and chairman of the board. I've been in the capital markets and the mining and oil and gas sector for 15 plus years. My VP of exploration on the call with us today is Neil McCallum. Neil is also a geologist specializing in uranium, and he's been working in Saskatchewan for 15 plus years, and specifically in the southwest corner where we are. Garrett Ainsworth is an independent director. Garrett comes to us from NextGen, where he was the VP of exploration and did a lot of work advancing the Arrow project. Garrett was also the same geologist who made a radioactive boulders discovery back in 2012, which led to Fission's Triple R project. So he knows this region exceptionally well. Following on that, we have Blair Jordan, who was an investment banker previously and a lawyer. He had capital markets experience, so he builds out our board. And we added Ken Judge at our last AGM. Ken comes to us from the capital markets side as well. He's a lawyer as well, specializing in M&A, and we brought him onto our team specifically for his M&A experience as we move forward. Our management team, we have Martin Bajic as our CFO. He works in Vancouver and works with multiple junior exploration companies and knows the TSX market quite well. Galen McNamara also joins us from NextGen. Galen works specifically with Garrett and Sean Hilliker, and Galen is currently the CEO of Suma Silver. Sean Hilliker joined us this past summer. Sean came directly from NextGen, where he was a project geologist. Sean spent the last 5 years doing his master's degree on the Arrow deposit. So having Sean join our team, someone who knows the geology and the rocks of this region better than probably anybody else globally. And finally, we've added Lori Thomas to our investor relations team this past year. Lori comes to us with 10 plus years working with Cameco Investor Relations and most recently with UEX. Now, when I talk about the Athabasca Basin and the southwest corner, I want you to take a look at this map, and you can sort of see where all the companies are, where these projects are, and how we position ourselves on this map. Three or four red stars on this map are very important. The three on the right side, the Spitfire, the Arrow, and the Triple R, those are all on the eastern side of the Clearwater Domain, and the Standard Uranium is on the western side. Most importantly, though, those three stars sit on what's called the Patterson Lake Conductor, and it's our theory that that same conductor runs from east to west and running right through our project. And I'm going to let our VP of Exploration talk a bit about that when he comes on. It's important to know that in this southwest corner, the two big projects, Arrow and Triple R, those are most likely going to be turned into mines in the near future. And there's 400 million pounds of uranium in this area, over 1,000 drill holes. Now, if you look at the Clearwater Domain slide here, you can sort of see in more detail, where those conductors lie. So those squiggly lines you see on the map, those are graphitic conductors. And if you're going to find uranium in this region, the uranium is going to be found in those conductors. When we started looking at this project 2 years ago, there was no information about our project. It hadn't been explored yet. So to have these, first thing we did was do some V10 exploration followed by Z10, which is geophysical work to basically look at our project and sort of see if we could identify those graphitic conductors. We found 26 of those, and of those we have 4 main conductors, and that's where we're going to be drilling on this upcoming drill program. It's important to understand that Clearwater Domain, that is the source of the fluids and the heat and the uranium that came up and deposited on the eastern side of the basin into the Spitfire, the Arrow, and the Triple R. Now, our Clearwater Domain theory says that those same fluids and uranium could potentially be found on the western side. And we believe those same conductors, the Patterson Lake Conductor specifically, runs through our project. And our phase 1 drill program last summer was to identify that was the same conductor running through our project, and we believe we did that. Now with phase 2, we're searching for the high-grade uranium deposits, and that's what I'm going to let Neil McCallum talk to you about when we get into more of the technical side. So if we look at integrating all target vectors, this is a close-up look at our Davidson River project with our 4 main conductors, our Saint, our Warrior, our Bronco, and our Thunderbird. And I'm going to pass this over to Neil McCallum, our VP of Exploration, our geologist, to come in and walk us through the next few technical slides. Take it away, Neil.
Yeah, that's right. So starting in 2018, we did a series of airborne geophysical surveys that really zero in on where these conductors are in our project, and we do a very thorough interpretation to target further from those surveys. And what we're looking for are not just the conductors, but where those conductors have breaks and offsets, because that will indicate some sort of geological alteration, whether it's faulting or whether it's an alteration that's broken up that conductor. And we see these types of signatures in all sorts of other deposits, not just the Southwest Athabasca Basin, but all over the Athabasca Basin. So with a combination of different types of targeting methods, we decided that the Warrior trend deemed to be the highest priority, and that's what we focused our drilling on. John, if you want to go to the next slide. So this is a layout of what we did last summer for our first drill program on the project. So we focused in on that central area of the Warrior Trend, which seemed to show us the best combination of all these targeting vectors, whether it's the change in dip direction of the conductors, which indicates structural deformation and opening up of porous fluids, allowing for possible uranium mineralization. It also indicated several areas of breaks and offsets in these conductors, which can potentially indicate the location of uranium. So that deemed most of our attention in 2020. We tested it a long strike as well in a few areas, and I think the most important observation from this drill program was essentially confirming what our airborne geophysics told us, is that these are priority trends that have these conductive zones that look very similar. Rock types, as John mentioned, that hosted those high-grade discoveries on the east side of the Athabasca, of the Clearwater structures. So we're really happy with what we found, and I think the next slide will show us what we're doing for phase 2, which is following up on some of our better results from last year's program. So the main target areas are the Skyline target, which really follows up one of the better structural and geology results from our 2020 drilling. And then the Meadow and Levy will define the edge of these corridors. We've noted from other deposits that a lot of times these deposits show up on the edge of these conductive corridors. They're quite wide, maybe about 500 meters wide. We just have to do a little bit more testing on that one side. And as well, we've realized that we need to step out a little bit further and test some of these other trends. There's a lot of targets on this project, so we're going to be testing the Saint trend and then eventually the Bronco trend as well. They all have really standout, excellent targets that we've defined on those as well. So our plan right now for this year will be to drill about 5,500 meters with about 13 holes and testing 3 of the corridors, focusing on the Warrior Trend to follow up on last year's work.
Great.
So we're fully permitted and funded and ready to go. And that should be taking place in the next few weeks. So our other project that we're keen on is called the Sundog Uranium Project. It is in the Uranium City area, which is one of Canada's first uranium mining camps. It's one of the areas that was first developed with a few different mills and mines, quite a few different mines actually. But our target area is not quite the same as what was produced historically. Historically, those mines were about 0.5% or less. What we're looking for here is the traditional Athabasca Basin unconformity style uranium. As John mentioned, this is world-class uranium country where we're looking for grades of 1% or better. Historical work in this area dates back to the 1980s, and it really hasn't been touched since then. So we're really keen to follow up some of these targets that were developed and follow up our own work. So we did our first little due diligence trip up there last fall, and we really like what we saw. Some of these target areas show up on surface. Some of them will need to follow up with drilling, but already we're having really good indications that this has the potential to host these high-grade Athabasca unconformity style with grades of up to 3.58% U3O8. So we're really keen to follow these up. I think there's also all the right ingredients, I like to call them, that indicate something that could be a classic high-grade unconformity style. So this year we're going to plan on ground gravity survey in these target areas, and then follow up with additional mapping and sampling to sort of make these targets a little bit more defined. We just really scratched the surface last year. Continuing with community engagement, and then eventually follow-up drilling, hopefully in 2022. These projects are on the eastern side of the Athabasca Basin, whereas our other projects are kind of further to the west. So this is traditional uranium exploration country where virtually all the mines and mills are currently active. But these project areas are just a little bit outside of what has been explored previously, despite the fact that they have really great targets on them. So we picked them up and we're really excited to follow these up. ISO Energy's Hurricane Zone has really brought attention to this area recently. Our projects are not very far away. Some of the more recent drilling has indicated really excellent grades. For example, that hole LE2034 with 33.9% U3O8 over 8.5 meters. That's really excellent grades for uranium in the Athabasca Basin. So we are going to be following up these with additional exploration this year.
Thank you, Neil. That was great. I'm going to take back the slide deck and walk us through our share structure and a bit more information for our audience. So this slide here, slide 17, gives you a snapshot of where we're trading. We're on the TSX Venture. We're on the OTC market as of about a few weeks ago. And we're also trading in Germany on the Frankfurt Exchange. Our share structure, we have 90 million shares out, 130 fully diluted, and between 15 and 18 million, depending on the hour you look at the exchange right now. What's really important on this slide is to look at who our strategic shareholders are, and I'll explain to you why that is. If you look at these three funds, these are three of the top 4 or 5 uranium funds globally. I speak of them. I'll start with Station Cove, led by Mike Alkin. So they became shareholders of ours back in 2018, and they participated in our past few capital raises. It's great to have an ambassador like Mike Alkin, who's probably known as sort of the kingpin or guru of the uranium space right now. He's been predicting where we're headed for several years now. And L2 Capital, led by Marcelo Lopez out of Australia, he came into our share registry in 2019 and has been very supportive. And then also Guy Keller and Tribeca also came in 2019. So having these three funds sort of give validity to what we are doing and believing in our company and our project is fantastic, and we're really proud to have that. This slide here gives you an idea of our bit more corporate information. You can see over the month of the last 3 months, October, November, and December, on the first chart, you can sort of see where our monthly trading volume is happening. So on the TSX Venture, our primary exchange, we're trading north of 500,000 to 1 million shares every day now, which is pretty remarkable. You can see our share price since we went public. We went public at 15 cents. As we did our summer program, our share price was up as high as 35 cents. And then the share price has sort of trickled down to about 12 cents in November. And here we are back at around 17, 18 cents right now. As we enter our second phase of our drill program, we anticipate there will be another push for shareholders to come in and watch for that share price to move forward again. Forward-looking statements, of course. And here's our summary slide. So we started this company a couple years ago. We are a Saskatchewan-focused uranium junior exploration company looking to make a high-grade uranium discovery in the basin. Our Davidson River is our flagship project. We are about to start our phase 2 drill program in a few weeks. We started building our road a couple days ago, and we're about 6 kilometers to 9 kilometers through right now. That's going to save us hundreds of thousands of dollars on the cost of our exploration, allowing us to put more drill holes in the ground. We completed our public listing on May 4th of last year, followed up by 2 very successful capital raises. And going into 2021, we're fully funded, fully permitted to continue to drill and explore our projects. I want to let you know that 2021 we are anticipating is going to be a remarkable year for Standard Uranium. We've got an incredible team that we've assembled specifically for drilling this project and our projects in the basin. And we are fully capitalized, fully permitted, and we've got a great list of shareholders who support us and believe in us. and would love to have you join us as well. So I'm going to open the floor now to questions, and we'll turn it over to our host, Michael. Thanks, Michael. Take it away.
Thank you. My name is Mike Heim, and I am the energy analyst for Noble Capital. I want to thank you for participating in our conference. I do want to make some, get into kind of the macro uranium a little bit, but I think we'll save that to later and maybe start with some company-specific questions. And I do want to encourage anybody in the audience who has some questions to click on the little bubble in the lower right and submit them, and I'll try and get them in. Let me start with phase 2 drilling. Now, you split that into both kind of a winter, I don't want to use the word phase because they're all confused, a winter period and a summer period. What's kind of the plans in terms of releasing results? Are you going to wait till everything's done, or will you do those in 2 parts?
Great question. So what we're going to do, and the reason it's divided into 2 parts, is the access. So we can, because we're building our winter road, that will drop, we can drive right to the site and we can access our Warrior Trend and our Saint Trend. And that's going to allow us to get our first 9 or 10 holes in. Our Bronco Trend to the southwest, we'll have to access by helicopter. So that's going to be done in the summertime. So when we get this, the drills turning, the drill program in the winter will take about 6 to 7 weeks. And then those results will get sent to the assay lab. And when those results come back, we will be releasing those to the market prior to the summer program. We're actually going to use, the results from the winter program to help us identify further targets to add on to our summer program if we have great success, which we plan to do.
Do you have any thoughts about an updated technical after you've completed this?
That won't be happening. I don't think we'll, if we make a discovery, at that point we'll be moving to a technical report on the back of that.
Walk me through, I'm not as familiar with the Canadian uranium, but walk me through a little bit about the processing, what happens after it's been mined.
Sure. Well, I can pass that over to Neil if you'd like to step in, but it's pretty straightforward. Should we make a discovery, there would have to be a mine built, and ore would come out of the ground in the mine. It would go into a mill, and from the mill it would move along to the next phase of the nuclear fuel cycle, where it would have to get processed and then upgraded and then turned into nuclear fuel rods and then sent to the nuclear reactor. So it's quite a lengthy process. It's about 2 years from the time the uranium comes out of the ground to it's actually fuel into a nuclear reactor.
And speaking of time frame, you described yourself as in kind of the discovery stage and kind of laid out that 5, 6, 7 year period. Is that kind of what you're thinking you could hit in terms of when we're actually mining?
Yeah, so if you look at companies that are very nearby us, we've got Fission, who has their Triple R discovery, and NextGen, who has their Arrow discovery. Those discoveries were made around the time period 2013, 2014. So once they made the initial discovery, they've been building that resource out for several years now and going through the next stages of when to actually put it into a mine. So here we are already in 2021, and they're probably at least 5 years away from actually having a mine built. For us, it's really exciting that those projects are advancing, and we anticipate that both those projects will be turned into mines, and there'll be a mill built in this region. And we're only 25 kilometers away from those. So for us, ideally, we make a discovery, we continue to build it out for 3 to 4 years, and then we either are able to have a mine built and move our stuff to their mill, or we're a takeout target. Either way, it's a great result for our shareholders.
Let me jump into the finances a little bit. Have you kind of disclosed what the expenditures will be for phase 2 drilling?
Yeah, most definitely we have. I can walk you through that. So we're roughly looking at a similar drill program budget as we had last summer, which is around $2 million. If we continue to make the program larger, we're well funded to do that. We've got about $4.5 million roughly in our bank account right now. We've earmarked $2 million for the current phase 2 drill program.
And you don't have any debt on your balance sheet, which obviously makes sense for a company in this type of position. You said you had 4.5 million.
That's correct, Canadian
cash. So you're pretty well covered. You've done a couple offerings. The offerings you did this year, or last year, I should say, were they pretty much a private placement with some of those larger institutional holders you mentioned?
No, they weren't actually. We did full prospectus offerings. So when we did went public in May, we had a 15-cent unit. So it was 15 cents, and that got you a 25-cent warrant as well. And then we did following that up, we did a capital raise in June, where the units were 20 cents for a hard dollar and 22 cents for flow through, and that came with a 30-cent warrant. And then we did the same terms for our capital raise in October, the 20-cent hard and 22-cent flow through with a 30-cent warrant. So each capital raise we've done, we've increased, and we continue to plan to do that for our shareholders.
You've mentioned that we're starting to see some excitement in the uranium industry, and we've seen some other uranium stocks take off. You pulled out a price chart on yours, and it's been more flat compared to what others do. Do you think that's just the nature of being more of an exploration company, or why do you think your stock hasn't reacted?
Yeah, so I think, following up on our drill program back in last fall, we sort of had those results out, and they were good results, achieving all the goals we wanted to achieve outside of making a high grade discovery, which is next to impossible on the first drill program. So as we didn't have a lot of material to discuss over the last, from November to where we are today, our share price trickled down with a lot of the markets. But then when the macro story started to pick up in early December into January, our share price did go from up 30%. So we were at 12 cents. We went up to as high as 23 cents, I think, last week. And then we trickled down to 17 or 18 cents today. So we did see a nice move. But we believe as we enter into our drill program, we anticipate those share prices will continue to move forward. And with the macro story picking up again, I think it'll be a great time for shareholders to be a part of Standard Uranium.
As we're talking about shareholders, I'm going to switch to the audience question. Somebody writes in and says, your major shareholders are impressive, but I don't see any U.S. analyst coverage. Why is that?
I think it's primarily because of the market cap of our company. We're only, a $15 million market cap company, which is micro cap. So to get U.S. analysts involved is we need to progress a little bit larger. We are looking at a few U.S. analysts right now we've been speaking to, so stay tuned on that. As we just completed our U.S. QB listing in the last few weeks, we have a strategy to sort of reach out to more U.S. Retail investors, and part of that will be looking at gaining some U.S. analyst coverage and also focusing on some U.S. Retail and investor relations activities. So stay tuned for that.
And you mentioned you hired a new investor relations person. Are you planning to do more of these type of conferences?
We are actually, yes. That's part of a goal. I mean, ideally, in a perfect world, I'd be on the road at conferences speaking as we used to do previously. I'm looking forward to the day when I can be back on the road again. It's been almost 12 months since my last in-person presentation. We've been doing a lot of, online Zoom meetings. You can go on, if you have a look on our YouTube channel, you can track back to see a lot of my previous interviews. And we will continue to use those to market the company.
Okay, we've got a question from the audience asking you why the Davidson River area has not been drilled out before.
Well, that's a good question. I'll see how much time here. I'll try to give you the short answer. So back in 2012, the Athabasca Basin, it was thought that all the uranium was either found on the eastern side, where a lot of the big projects are, or the far north, where the original projects were. No one was actually believing there was uranium in the southwest corner until Garrett Ainsworth, one of our directors, made the discovery of radioactive boulders. At that point, the Saskatchewan government made that region open for uranium exploration. There was a staking rush. A whole bunch of projects were staked, and the individual who staked our project was an individual named Jody DeRouge. At the time, he was also a director with Fission Uranium. He offered our project to Fission. Their CEO said, no, thank you. We've just made our RRR project discovery. We don't need that. So Jody kept it. When he left Fission a year later, he was sued by Fission for that project back. Our Davidson River project was tied up in court for 3+ years, and Jody won 100% of that project. So while our project was tied up in court, Fission advanced their RRR project. NextGen made their Arrow discovery. PurePoint had their Spitfire discovery. There was all kinds of activity and staking and happening around our area, but the Davidson River could not be explored. So when we acquired it in 2017, started to work it in 2018, there hadn't been a single drill hole. There hadn't been geophysics done. We were the first to have this project and really get to work on it. And we believe it's the most exciting project in the Athabasca Basin right now.
Is it too early to throw out expectations in terms of costs, or should we just say you think it'll be similar to on the other side to what we're seeing in Canada in general?
I'm confused. What do you mean by that question? Correct.
What type of uranium price do you need to make this a profitable project?
Well, for us, that's years away. So for us as an exploration company, our job is just to make an exploration. For us to actually turn this into a mine, I mean, the uranium price really needs to be, the spot price needs to be north of $50 for these projects to get turned into profitable, mines for these companies. So we believe, watch for, next gen and fission to have those projects turned into mines, and that'll be the next cycle that'll really get the Southwest corner exciting again.
Let's say everything hits and we're 6-7 years from now and you're into the mining stage, or let's not even go that far out. Let's say everything hits. You're an exploration company. Do you see yourself always as an exploration company? In other words, do you bring in a partner at that point? Do you sell the firm and look at other exploration areas? What's kind of the longer term strategy?
Yeah, that's a great question. So if you look at, first of all, go back in time when NextGen made their discovery. Prior to making their discovery, their share price was, below 25 cents. Within that discovery being made, within a couple of years, they were up to almost $4. So when an investor gets involved with a company like ours, there is huge opportunity to get in pre-discovery and really have a monumental success. For us as a company, our goal would be to do just what NextGen's done. You make that initial discovery and then you build it out. You continue to have follow-up drill programs and try to see how big you can get that resource. And then time comes where you have to make a decision where you're going to be a miner yourself, or you'll be taken out, or you'll find partners. So those are all opportunities that will be put in front of our board of directors, and we'll make that decision when the time comes. But right now we're focused on making that discovery and making multiple discoveries. And if you look at the size of our project compared to mirror over on the eastern side of the Clearwater Domain, where you have the Fission RRR, the NextGen Arrow, and the Spitfire all in that same conductor. If you match that and flip it over onto our side of the map, our strike length of our Warrior could host all three projects on ours. So that to us is extremely exciting. We've got multiple conductors that have got great potential, and we could be making multiple discoveries on our project for years to come, which is what many of our shareholders already see.
All right, let's shift and get a little bit more broad-based and talk about uranium as a whole. You mentioned Cigar Lake is down with COVID concerns. McArthur River still down too, right? What are you seeing there in Canada in terms of those two coming back?
Well, it's going to come. Number one, Cigar Lake right now is down because of COVID. So they're sort of on care and maintenance, waiting for the numbers in the far northeast to sort of reduce. It's very tricky up there because these are primarily staffed by First Nations communities, and the communities don't have great health care up there. There's not the high-tech hospitals in those regions. So when there is an outbreak, it is, it's pretty dangerous. So we have to be very careful, as does Cameco, as to, when they can actually get back and turn those projects back on and get miners mining again and get the mill up and running. If you look at other regions and when could we get back to work, we're going to be moving forward with our drill program starting in 2 weeks based on, information we have from the Saskatchewan government, as well as meeting with our First Nations partners. We're going to be meeting them again next week, but currently they want us to proceed and, continue on with very safe COVID precautions to help those projects stay COVID-free and get work done and get their people working as well. I think I might have shifted gears there on you, but.
What are you hearing about Kazakhstan, the big gorilla that kind of flooded the market?
Yeah, I'm hearing similar. I think I saw something else just today where there looks like there's more COVID cases happening in the regions there. So, watch for further COVID restrictions in those regions. When will COVID reduce and get people back to, not worrying about this? It could be a year from now, but I'm hoping it's going to be, by this summer where the vaccines start rolling out and the summertime weather allows things to get better. Last summer when we did our last program, the COVID cases in our region was down to almost zero, which was fantastic. Now we're going to be continuing to move forward with cases much higher. There's literally, 300 cases in the far northwest. Now, not all those are around our project. I think our town of La Loche only has 12 or 13 cases right now. And a lot of our workers come from La Loche that staff the camp we will be staying at, where our cooks and our security and camp staff will all come from the La Loche region.
We know exploration is down because of the low prices. You're almost a little bit rarer doing what you're doing. Do you think COVID is impacting exploration as well, or is it just a pricing issue?
Yeah, I think COVID is, we look at the spot price, it's still sitting around $30 right now. We anticipate, as do, most of the analysts and investors we talk to, that spot price has to move upwards north of $50 for a lot of these projects to get actually functioning. So we anticipate 2021 will be a remarkable year for the uranium space. And I would not be shocked to see long-term contracting starting to come in with big utilities. And once those contracts are announced, we're going to see spot price jump upwards to past 40, maybe past 50. So fingers crossed in 2021 this will happen. And when that starts to happen, then you'll see more generalist investors, more hedge funds come in, and the uranium market could do what it did in 2006, 2007, where it went from $10 a pound to $140 a pound. Depending on who you talk to, that is a real possibility.
At that time, you had a handful of explorers, and then at the peak in 2007, I think there were probably 50 companies that switched their name to uranium in the title, and they were all trying to get ground in the Athabasca Basin.
Yeah, that's a great point, Neil. I mean, right now, if you look at globally, there's probably 60 to 70 uranium companies. Back in 2007, there were over 500.
Yeah.
500. So if you look at what's going to happen when uranium takes off, we anticipate there'll be a lot of new companies trying to come into the Athabasca Basin, trying to stake land, trying to get projects. And that's why we have multiple projects. Davidson River is our flagship. We're going to keep that one, but we have other projects that are open for JV partnerings, for further funding. And we anticipate there's going to be a lot of interest in our projects, as well as, other junior companies. But there's not a lot of great areas to stake. All the good projects, we believe, have all been staked up. And if you look at who's in this region, the 20 companies that are in the Athabasca Basin have been there for a long time, and they've got good projects and holdings.
Where do you see Canada in kind of the pecking order of global supply coming back?
Yeah, well, up until, because Kazatomprom took over that a few years back, Canada was number one globally, and we believe we could be back there again. If Cameco continues to get Cigar Lake and McArthur River back online, two of the world's greatest uranium mines, and then if Triple R and Arrow get turned into mines, Canada could be the number one producer of uranium globally again. And that's high-grade uranium, not, less than 1%. These are, 20% at some places, and that is just remarkable.
We haven't even talked about the demand side of the equation, but that's certainly part of it. Japanese and reactors coming back online, just general growth, increased environmental concern. What are you seeing in Canada in terms of demand in nuclear plants?
Well, it's interesting you bring that up. I mean, the small modular reactors seems to be the talk of what's happening right now. Multiple provinces in Canada are talking about moving forward with those. And by the end of this decade, we will see small modular reactors around Canada. And I think the Canadian government is very supportive of that. Currently, our largest province, Ontario, hosts, our uranium projects, and it supplies 70% of the energy for Canada, which is great. And it's never had any accidents, and it's been extremely safe. I mean, uranium is, and nuclear reacting and nuclear energy is the safest energy globally. And for the world to move to, low carbon energy by 2050 to have, zero carbon, that nuclear has to be part of the solution. It has to be a big part of the solution. I mean, we're all also supportive of solar and wind and other types of clean energy, but without nuclear, the world will never get even close to those numbers, which we believe is.
And then you mentioned quickly the $150 million strategic reserve. We don't really have a lot of details on that. Is it your understanding that it would be U.S.-Canada production exclusively? Yeah, well, I'm going to say this. It'll be U.S. and it'll be friends of the U.S. So Canada is a big part of that. It could be Australia as well. We do believe, the bipartisan supports that $150 million starting next year, and it could be $150 million each year for the next 10 years. That was what was originally proposed. Currently, the U.S. has, huge demand. They have 90-some nuclear reactors, and they produce a very, 2% of the uranium that they actually use. So they're heavily dependent on other nations supplying their uranium. And I think that's part of why the U.S. government really wants to become more self-supportive and give their own industry a push to make sure they can look after themselves and push come to shove.
There are a lot of resources in the United States, but not a lot are at the advanced stage where they can suddenly turn on the lights. So they're going to need countries like Canada to fill that gap for sure.
Are you hearing any rumors on how the pricing on that would work?
No, still too early for that. And that's a little bit out of our league. We're still focused on, early exploration stage stuff. So I'll leave that to the experts on that to handle that question.
Yeah, it's a nice little aside at this point, but we need more details.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there anything else we haven't covered? Poll and see if we get any more questions from the audience, but I've kind of run through the questions I had. Is there anything else that you'd like to make sure a potential investor would know?
I'd like to tell potential investors that, right now we're about to start our phase 2 drill program in 2 to 3 weeks. This is a remarkable time to join us at Standard Uranium. Take a look at, some of our materials online, look at our previous interviews, look at what our shareholder base is saying about us, go on to Twitter and sort of get some information that way. And anytime you want to reach out to us, you can find me on Twitter or send us an email or give us a call. I'm happy to speak to investors and share our story. So I'm looking forward to getting our drill program started in a few weeks and getting up there myself into that, minus 30, minus 40 and getting some more videos and pictures to share with our followers.
Well, I'm going to stay down here in Florida. That's okay.
Yes.
Well, thank you again for participating. I think it was a very good presentation, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Michael, and thank you for your audience, and thanks for hosting this conference. And next year, hopefully we're doing this in person in sunny Florida.
Good deal.